Thank you, Deputy. Minister, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Ciarán. I have a lot to get through in 5 minutes, and I don't where to start. Well, Deputy Fleming, I think a lot of your contribution, I must say, I found to be quite disingenuous. There's no new policy in this bill. You're around this House an awful lot longer than I am. You know that the Appropriations Bill gives technical effect to issues that have been debated to the nth degree in this House, that have been voted on by this House, and that have been passed by these Houses of the Oireachtas. You talk about charitable organisations advertising on radio, and I don't think certain individuals that you named would like to be linked to your own political ideology. But I think it's important to note that charitable organisations, which we all support in this House, always advertise for funds. It's a very important part of what they actually do. You talked about the issue of supplementary estimates for the HSE. Again, it's important to note, and I have the figures here, and in almost every year since the establishment of the HSE in 2005, the HSE required a supplementary estimate. Even when, I accept it's the biggest one, but even when we were the wealthiest country in Europe and you had more money than sense, there was always a requirement for a supplementary estimate. So, to suggest that needing a supplementary estimate after the health service coming through an extremely difficult number of years of funding, that there's something wrong or bizarre or out of sync with that, just simply doesn't stand up to any level of scrutiny. This bill does three things, and if you're going to vote against it, as you have every right to do, you need to be conscious of the three things it does. This bill ensures public servants get paid in January. It ensures that people on job seekers allowance, people on disability allowance, people on non-contributory state pensions, people on all other social welfare payments funded from the social protection pay. It ensures our nurses get paid, our guards get paid, our teachers get paid. It ensures that there's payment to suppliers of goods and services, Irish SMEs. And in fairness to Deputy Tobin, he acknowledged that and acknowledged that he didn't wish to hold that up. If Deputy Fleming wishes to hold that up, that's your prerogative. You and I get paid. We get paid out of the central fund. There's other people who depend on the passage of this technical piece of legislation each and every year, and to try and turn it into a political debate about other policy matters when there's no new policy in this bill, I believe is disingenuous. All of the provisions that this bill gives technical effect to and legal effect to have already been debated and passed by these Houses. The bill also does another thing. It allows for capital project spending to be carried over. Again, when we have ambitious projects that haven't quite gotten there yet or that need to be finished, rather than allowing the money to go back to central fund, it allows the departments to hang on to that money and deliver those projects. I think that's something to be welcomed. If we don't pass the bill, that can't happen. The other thing it does is it ends, as you know, it talks about transferring the tobacco duties to the Department of Health. Now, I know that your own party may have an affinity to the HSE. I know your leader set up the HSE. This government gave a commitment to bring back accountability to the health service, so that when members of this House ask questions, they're not constantly told that's a matter for the HSE, that the vote will actually come under the democratically elected government's responsibility and the minister appointed by that government. That's progressive. It's important. I think it's important for accountability. I know you have a fondness for the HSE. We don't, and we think the transfer of their vote to the Department of Health is important. It's also important to say that a lot of what this bill deals with, and I've heard much of the debate that went on at committee about pensions, is the legacy of the Fianna Fáil policy of 2009. Because amongst the figures that you briefed the media on during the week, as is your entitlement, it's public information, amongst those figures is the fact that there is a follow-through on some of the decisions taken in 2009, when your own government decided to introduce the incentivised scheme for early retirement, where people took their 10% lump sum, but when they reach their pensionable age, they have to get the rest of the 90%. That was a decision taken by the last government. There are many public servants sitting at home today, or former public servants, who retired under that scheme on the promise of your government that once the state was solvent, which thank God it is due to the efforts of this government, that they would be paid the 90%. Now, to try and disown that policy choice when it's one of your legacy issues we're working through, I think is disingenuous. There has been discussion, and I think it's always important to have discussions about whole-of-year budgeting, because I think we always have to look at, can we do things better, what can we do better, and we are determined to try and do that. But we now have the Comprehensive Expenditure Report 2015 to 2017. We have departmental allocations set out over a 3-year period to 2017. This allows Dáil Éireann, it allows the Select Committee to engage on a multi-annual basis. It allows greater foresight being provided to Dáil Éireann and indeed to the public with regard to future expenditure, and there will be many needs to have those sort of political debates. But let's not pretend this piece of legislation is something that it isn't. Let's not, and please don't, and I don't have the time in the 35 seconds available to me to debate the whole fairness issue, because certainly the decisions taken by your government, Deputy Fleming, certainly weren't fair. In relation to the issues of the wealthy, Deputy Tobin, I really look forward to having the debate with your own party in relation to how do you define wealthy, because we've categorised our efforts in relation to people earning between 32,800 and 70,000. I describe them as Middle Ireland, the people at the backbone of our public services, the people working in our SMEs, but that's a debate we're going to have another time. I commend this bill to the House. I ask that we pass it without too much pantomime.
Thank you, Minister. As 45 minutes